Alright everyone, how's it going? This is Ryder here. I'm going to be showing you how to do a quick version of static collision on a NIF model for Skyrim. So with this quick tutorial, it's going to be just simple basic stuff. I'm not going to go too in depth. I'm going to try to keep it at the user level of just starting out. I will include links of deeper information, other articles you can research on your own, but this will give you a starting point from trying to incorporate a 3D model or creating a 3D model into putting collision on it and then putting it into game. So that's where we're going to start with this. I will include utilities, a Nifutilsuite short or link to the page, and I'll also include links to the following tools as well on my YouTube page and the other articles, and as well to the Blender and a few other things. But this is going to be for Blender. You could use 3ds Max. There is a way. There's other ways to do collision. There's several ways. Sometimes it takes a lot of research, but I just want to skip all that. I want to show you my process. It's quick. It's easy. It's just it takes a second to set up. Alright, so first of all, you're going to want to get Blender. You're going to want to go to Blender, right here. You're going to want to download Blender. It's going to go to your downloads folder. You're going to want to get Blender Niftools add-on. If you've ever been to a GitHub page, most of the time it's going to look something like this right here. When you get there first, you're going to go over the releases. You're going to click on releases, and thanks to Kandarin for this, you're going to scroll all the way down, and you're just going to go to Blender Niftools add-on right there. It's going to go towards or to your downloads folder. Now, when you download it, and after you install Blender, you're going to hop on over here. This is probably the longest part of this whole thing, just waiting for this. Give it a sec. The other tools you're going to need are Bethesda BSA extractor if you want to take models for kit bashing out of the base game. And you're also going to need NIF Optimizer. It allows you to convert a 3D model that's a NIF from an old RIM, because when Skyrim was first released, it was released in 32-bit, and this tool allows you to convert it back and forth between 32-bit and 64-bit. Now, Blender works best currently with 32-bit, so reverting like an SSE model back to 32-bit and then importing it into Blender is probably the best current way still to go about this whole process. But you could still, there's a new update for Blender Niftools where we're just at that allows for SSE. But I've ran into a few complications, so I think some of the kinks are still being worked out with that process, but a lot of workflows are still worked out in 32-bit format. So after we get here, I'm going to leave my cube over here. I'm going to delete my camera, and I'm going to delete this. We're just going to be working with this cube today. I'm not going to do any crazy 3D modeling, right? So after we open Blender, you're going to go to Edit, you're going to go to Preferences, you're going to go to Install, you're going to go to your Downloads folder, and I already have it in here. You're going to install your Blender Niftools add-on, okay? Mine's from January. It's been a while. I have since updated mine. I just updated it to July 22nd to the current update for SSE. You're going to install it, and then you're going to go in here, and you're going to, it should pop up after installs, and you're going to click on the box to enable it. It should be mine. It should be right here. So you're going to enable it by clicking on that box. It'll probably take a quick second. You're going to go down here, you're going to go to Save Preferences. So that's after you install it, okay? So before we continue, I'm going to show you the other tools you're going to need. Nifskope. I'm going to provide the link for this tool in the links below. as well. This is on GitHub as well. You're going to need that. You're going to need Nifutilsuite. I'm going to provide a link for that tool as well. We're going to be using chunk merge right here. We're going to be needing that. And you're also going to be needing something called .xml, which is actually on, let me pull up the page for you guys. It's going to be on this Niftools webpage, nif.xml. This will give your collision materials. So when you attack it or like hit a 3D object, it has effects. Like an arrow will stick in it, a weapon will reflect off of it. You need this script for, it comes with nifskope, I do believe, but you're going to need this script when you're applying textures, and I'll show you how. So I'm going to minimize that. So first of all, there is a method that people use where they export models out of nifskope as a .obj and then import it into Blender and work with it that way. I am not going to be doing that method. I'm going to go straight nif. I'm going to cross out the export and import of obj. There is benefits to both, but I'm going to work just straight nif. So first of all, I have this block, right? There's no materials on this. I can't export this. If I try to export it, it's going to be a pain. So we got to do some stuff to it to actually get it to be able to export as a NIF, okay? Let me see. We have to give it a material property to actually be able to export it, and I'm going to show you how to set that up. But before we get to that far deep into this whole thing, let me show you a few other things. My bad, I'm getting a little all over the place here. Let me slow down a little bit. We're going to run Nifutilities real quick. I want to show you a few things. So when you first activate this, and you're going to go to chunk merge, it's going to ask you where the .xml file is located. You're going to direct this most likely to open file location, your nifskope installation area, and your .xml should be in there right here, because right here's my application. Here's my nif.xml. If it's not, put it here. Okay. There's that. And to also add collision, you're going to need something called a template. I'm going to include this so you could download it as well. This has I pressed this red bouncy ball to show collision, by the way. This shows a collision right here. Okay, it's in red. Now originally, this looks something like this. It's a model, and then I would click this, and you would see it's red collision right here. This is how you interact with this object. Nitri shapes are the separate meshes that hold the tri data along with the textures. Node is basically nodes that, kind of like parent nodes. It's kind of weird to get into. I'll link other things for you to understand nifskope a little bit better. BSFX flags, we're going to get into that a little bit. Trying not to go way overboard. To get these meshes, like the barrel one that I was just looking at here, I'll show you how to get that. Since I'll include the template, you don't have to worry about going to find this barrel mesh, but if you wanted to use or set up your own template, you would go find barrel 1 in your unzipped BSA files, and you would delete everything except for the collision. Now, to delete stuff, you can go to block, remove branch. I'm not going to go through and do that. I kept the BSX flags. I kept the rigid body and the BHK mop tree shape underneath that is compressed mesh data, and these are the things you want to keep. And this is quote unquote my template file, okay? So, and you want this in 32-bit format, so old Skyrim, okay? If you need to understand how to convert it, you need one of these two tools. It's either SSE Nif Optimizer or Cathedral Asset Optimizer. I like using Cathedral. It's simple. Both are pretty simple. You can choose right here what game it's going to be for or what you're converting it to. Like if I say TES5 and it's an SSE Nif, I can set up TES5. I can choose the directory. You want to put your mesh that you're converting in its own separate folder, and you're going to use this to target that folder. And then you're going to go over to meshes right here, and I usually do full optimization. You could do necessary optimization. And then all you're going to do is, after that, you're going to choose if you're going to put it to an SSE model or a TES model. To do most of this work, you want it as a TES5 model. And you're going to hit run. And you can tell the difference between the two models by looking at them. This is what I mean. So this is a new SSE or Skyrim Special Edition or even AE Anniversary Edition model. It's going to say tri-shape right here for the data. Okay, it's going to say BS tri-shape. In this one, which is converted to an Uldrim, this is going to say knee tri-shape. So you have BS tri-shape and knee tri-shape. Knee tri-shape is for the 32-bit. This is what we want to work in. Okay, so going along with that, I am going to show you where you can get your BSA folders to unzip if you want to use the vanilla assets real quick. You're going to go into your Skyrim installation, where mine is actually on my local disk C. I've heard problems about it being there, but I have mine there. You're going to go into Program, Files, 86, Steam, Steam Apps, Common, Skyrim Special Edition. You're going to go to your data folder, and your BSAs are in here. Your BSAs are basically zipped files of the format that Bethesda use for their meshes and textures and everything, even their animations. But you're going to go in here, you're going to look for meshes 01 and 02. Right? You're going to look for those. You can make copies of them, put them in a different folder, and then unzip them there. That way you have a resource like this of where you can go to have all your different meshes from the base game, or even the DLCs. They're all in here. Like architecture, you got Whiterun, Markarth in here. You have all these. I could go to the walls. You have all these walls and stuff, but we're going to get out of that. Okay. So I'll also include a video on how to set up nifskope if you want to see, or if you can't see textures in the program. Let's see. But I'm trying to keep this short because it's more if you understand how to set up or use nifskope and all that already. I'm trying to keep it basics for adding collision. Something tells me you've probably already been, hopefully, in the modding scene for a little bit and you understand how nifs work and what some of these programs do. Alright, so I have this base cube, alright? I'm going to keep it going. This is my base cube. I've done nothing to it. This is what Blender opens up with, but we're going to put this in game, okay? This has, on this right side, we open it way over here because I know my little dude's in the way. I'm going to move myself up here so you can see. This has a shader panel down here. This is how the game reads what kind of materials or how light's going to interact with this object. Okay, and it gives it properties. I'm going to also include a link for this because there's a lot more to go in depth with these. If I choose BS shader property on this, I also have to choose the game. You gotta go here to choose the game after you've installed Niftools. So there's a little triangle, or actually that's a cone. No, yeah, it's a cone. Right here with a sphere, and it's going to be scene. You're going to go to scene and choose your game. You're going to choose Skyrim, not SE, Skyrim. Make sure these are correct. 12, that, 83. You're going to go to materials again. It's going to look a little different down here. It should or not. Oh, BA shader property. Oh, lighting shader property. There we go. You should get a, it's BS lighting shader property. You're going to get all these check boxes. These are all your flags. And if you import a mesh without these included, it's not going to work. There's two ways to set this up. I'm going to go over the quick way to do it. Actually, technically, there's 3 ways to do it. I'm going to go over the quickest method that I've learned to do it. Alright? I'm going to minimize that. So here we got this model. Okay. I have, at this point, I've got everything set up that I needed to. I've had all my tools downloaded. You've clicked through the links, and I'm going to assume you're where you need to be. If not, then we got to get there. But, so, I am going to say, hey, I want to throw a material on this, or I want to make it to where I can export this as a NIF. By the way, file, import, and export are up here, okay? So let's say you have a different 3D model than this shape. Well, I want this to possibly look like stone, right? If you want a object to look like something, I would find a NIF in your BSAs that has that same aesthetic, or like stone, wood, or something like that have those same textures from the base game. This way it just makes it a little bit quicker. You can apply different textures to your object, but I want to try to keep this as fast as possible, because you can change the textures in nifskope. So I got, let's say, a model that I want to use from the vanilla models. After I've unzipped my BSA, I'm going to go in this folder. You know, I have this one right here. I have this Whiterun wall piece right now. Okay. I am going to say, hey, I want to use that type of model. So I'm going to import this NIF because it's a 32-bit Skyrim. I have it on my desktop in a new folder. What folder was that? Actually, 2. New folder 2. I have too much stuff on here. Old RIM. I labeled it as that so I can use it. Import, and it'll pop in right here. Okay. Also, if you get this little clipping thing and this issue with your scene when you have bigger models, you're going to go to View up here. There's going to be a little thing up here you can click on. Go to View, and you're going to go to 20,000 or more. It raises like the fog of war or your scene clip. Okay. So I'm going to select all this. Right. I'm going to move it out of the way with this little tool. I'm going to drag it just out of the way so I can see my little square. Right. I'm going to make this square a bit bigger. I clicked on it. I'm going to hold S and I'm going to pull out. Alright, this still does not have shaders on it. And your material little circle down here. This does. Right? Here's the thing. You can go through each and every setting in here and set this model up. This cube, you can set it up to look exactly like this right here on the left. You can do that. That will work. You can just do it that way. What I'm saying is, see how I chose, I'm looking at this model to the left. I'm going down on the material properties here, and I'm looking under BS Lighting Shader property. It has cast shadows, it has own emit, receive shadows, remap remappable texture, specular, z-buffer test, enviromap, light fade, and z-buffer white, right actually. Now you can go through and set this little cube up with all these same shader properties and everything, and all the lighting effects 2.0. You can set up the surface diffuse BSDF because you have to, color base. Actually, this could be base or multiply actually. Normal map. This turns into a mess. I'm going to go over the use nodes in a different video, I do believe. But I'm going to just show you the quickest way to do this. But first, I want to actually see its texture. Its textures need to be unzipped, by the way, as well. You do the same thing like you did with the BSAs for the meshes. You just find textures and find them. Let's say I want to see this texture on this selected model. I'm going to go to Open. A texture should already be here. By the way, I clicked on, so I'm in Layout right now. I went up here to the top. I looked for Shading. Clicked on that. You're going to see a node-based system down here. Do not mess with it. Go to Whiterun City Walls.dds. Open image. You're going to look for where you put your textures at when you unzip them for your BSAs. Basically the same as when you did for your meshes. I have mine unzipped already. I'm going to go to where I put it. You can search for it through all this, like going through your desktop and all that, but I already have Whiterun as my most recent. I'm just going to click on it. My textures are in Whiterun. I'm going to hit Open. It's going to let me see my stone in here. So then I'm going to go back to Layout, and you can actually see your textures on your mesh by clicking this little guy up here. All right? Bam. Now, there's a couple things I want to say before I put this material on this. To export this, it needs one material and only one UV map. A UV map is what tells the texture how to lay out on your model. You can do a UV map by going to Faces, this little square up here in the middle, and then right-clicking, Unwrap. You're going to go Unwrap, Q Projection, or Smart UV Projection are some of the better ones I like using. You can make a seam to unwrap it too. That's basically just doing something else. That's getting a little bit more into other things. I'm trying to just focus on collision. So here your left is your unwrapped UV model, okay? You can also just unwrap one part or a section at a time if you do choose to as well. Alright, sometimes it will have multiple UV maps. A one mesh part can only have one UV map. It won't export with two. What I mean by parts, I mean, see how this is broken up into different parts? These all have only one UV map. You can only export with one UV map, one material. Okay, so speaking of materials, I'm going to go back to Layout. I'm going to say, hey, I want to put the materials on you. So I don't have to do all the copying, or not all the figuring out of all of the shaders and stuff. What you're going to do is you're going to click on this, hold Shift, click on this, so you're going to highlight both, and you're going to click back on this, like that, and you're going to press Control L, right? And you could do this with multiple objects, just as long as your active item, the item or object that I have highlighted in yellow right now on screen, is last. That's your active object. You can select 100 different objects that you want to put this material on. You go to Link Materials. Okay? This is going to turn brown because it's got a little goofy, and I'll show you why. But after you do that, that material from the last object, the active object that you've selected, will now be applied to all the other objects you've selected. I will do it one more time. Alright? You can also click it first and it last. I mean, it's a thing. Because it has to be your active element or object. Control L. link materials. There. Now this material is on it. The reason you don't see it is most likely, well, I'll show you something else first. You don't see this material on there, or the texture. I'll show you why here in a second. But you see off to the right under your material viewer, I'll click on this. It has the same shader properties now. Has the same setup as your other object. Now, why you don't see the texture on here is actually because it's simple, it's frustrating at the same time. The UV maps are named something completely different. This is named UVO, 0. This is going to be UV map. You can rename this by double clicking on it. I'm going to put a 0 on it to UVO, and now my texture's on that. Look at that. Bam. Okay, a few other things. If your model, when exported, is black, it's because the color attribute is not applied on this. You need a color attribute. It's going to be, type this out, RGBA, like that. You're going to click face corner and byte color, select the color, RGB. This is going to be white, hit OK. If you do not have that color attribute on your model right here, or applied to it, it'll come out black. You won't see the texture at all. It'll look similar to how these little parts do over here. That is because your shaders have a vertex color that needs applied. I didn't have mine applied. Has a vertex color right here. That needs to be applied for all this. Well, it doesn't necessarily need to be applied, but for this to not come out black, it needs to have a attribute color for its vertex colors. I'm guessing this probably doesn't have a vertex color. Let me double check. I bet you it don't. Oh, I don't either. So the only way it'll turn out black, it looks like, is if it has vertex color enabled, and a lot of meshes from vanilla Skyrim do. And sometimes when you transfer material data over, those vertex colors won't get, or the color attribute won't transfer with it, so you have to apply it yourself. Because some of those meshes and their materials will have the vertex color flag applied. And if that's applied and this object does not have a color attribute, it'll come out black. And you won't be able to figure out how to fix it. The other thing you can do is you can go up here to the corner and vertex paint. If vertex paint flag is applied, you can choose a color. You can choose another color besides white or that color, but your object's gonna look that color. I don't know if it'll, oh wait, there it goes. Vertex color. Oh, I can't really tell it. Oh, sure. We'll get out of this for now. I don't want to get into all this. Alright, so I'm going to go back to vertex paint object. Well, that was just me fucking around. Okay, get back on task. Alright, so the material is on here. I'll even show you. If I go to my shading nodes, this cube has this layout, the same as this. That's what you want. Previously, if I go to this material up here, you can remove it. It's back to its normal self. There's nothing on this. This is how it looked earlier. But again, I'll click on it, link, materials, it has its material back. You make sure it has its color attribute too. It's a big thing with me. It's going to be under your data is what it's under for color attribute, by the way. It does. Okay, cool. Kept it. Alright. I'll go back out to layout. At this point, you can save, you can do whatever you want. I'm going to go to File, Export, NIF. Again, that's File, Export, NIF. Okay? I'm going to put it on my desktop just for shits and giggles. Export. It's untitled, so I got this cube. It's right here. I'm going to open it with nifskope, and bam! Oh, some of the vertex colors on it, so it's yellow. Nice. Look at that. I got that. Now, if you want to put this in game, you need to apply a... So you're going to click on that knee tri-shape. Going to go to block. Actually, not going to go to block. You're going to go to node, attach parent data, and you're going to go to attach parent node. Click on that. Go to BS fade node. Where you be? Bam. BS fade node. Got you. So now you have your tri-shape and all of this stuff, right? I'm going to go to File, Save, and just give you a heads up, have auto sanitize on for this, okay? So that's how you export from Blender. The other thing you could do, if you wanted to painstakingly go through this whole process, is you can go back to shading and you can go through and add all these nodes. You can build this and set it up and use this as a reference to create the shader property on this from looking at this. That is one thing you can do. It's good practice. How you would go to add a new node, you'd go to add, and you could use this right here. Let's say I want to add a shader. I'm going to go to diffuse BDSM. I get this little window, and I could do these little clicky thingies right here and attach them where they need to go. I'm not going to get into all that. So, and if you don't know what a node is, like say you can't find a node, you're going to click on the original, you're going to right click, and you're going to go to, let me see where it's at. Should be, let me see here. Should be a way to ask them. Join, remove, rename. Oh, online manual. So you're going to right click. If you don't know what a node is, you're going to right click and you're having trouble finding it. You're going to select that node, go to online manual. A little window will pop up. It'll tell you exactly what that node is called, and you will search that node. That is how you do that. Okay, so we're going to go back to materials. All right. I'm going to, we're practically done with Blender now, just give you a heads up. So I'm going to exit out of this. I am not going to save because I don't need to save. You should save. That's your 3D model. I have my untitled little cube right here. And we are going to add collision to it. I have added my BS fade node right here. I have my shape. It is in the knee tri-shape format, meaning it's in 32-bit format. I'm going to exit out. I am going to start using Nifutilities. If you use this or chunk merge, you need to direct it towards your .xml file, which is in nifskope, or you have to go download it. And I've showed you, or I included links where you can get it. You're going to click on chunk merge. There's two ways you can go about this, right? You can do single and choose what the collision is going to be that you give it. Like if you hit it, it's going to create sparks. It's going to be a metal object. You can go stone for it to sound like rock. But that will do the whole model. Okay? That'll do the whole model. Let's say you have, let's say you have multiple parts, like I showed you with the Whiterun column, right? You can name, or you can give each one of these its own collision attribute. And I'm actually going to show you how to do that real quick. So I'm going to open Blender back up real quick. And we're going to call it untitled number 2. Too much energy tonight. We're going to do Shift D. So we're going to have these two objects, right? We're going to say, so you have two meshes. You can have two meshes or tri-shapes. These are your tri-shapes. You have two tri-shapes right here. I'm going to go File, Import. Again, you could do the materials over there if you want to painstakingly go through that. I've written everything down of everything you have to do, but I find this to be the fastest thing. I'm going to get my file number 2 back, and I'm going to go for the cap again for old rim import. I'm going to move it out of the way again. Oh, my black one with it. Let's do this. File, import, nif, 32-bit, import, bam. Whee! Alright, so I'm going to select these. Select this, Control L. Link object, oh no, link materials, bam, done. I'm going to delete this, select these, File, Export, nif, Untitled 2 on my desktop. Export, bam, done. Exit. Actually, hold up, let me leave that open because I want to see how these turned out. Nice. Okay, cool. I didn't do the color attributes. So if a mesh has a vertex color flag, it's going to need a color attribute. If it's not flagged, you don't have to worry about a color attribute. That's what it looks like. And if you don't have a color attribute on a flagged vertex color, these are going to turn out black. Yeah. Node. Attach parent node, BS fade node. I got a knee node this time. I'm going to actually flatten branch, and then I'm going to delete this. If you want to delete something quickly, you can press Control Delete on that one part, but you have to be over here. You can't be over here. You go File, Save, Exit. All right, next we're gonna do Nifutilsuite, trunk merge after you, of course, again, gone and directed this towards your .xml file. I think you can do it up here. Tools. It should ask you when it opens. Okay, so it's going to ask you your template. Your template I'm going to include, or if you've not created it yet, I'm going to include it. It's that barrel 01. It's basically a NIF mesh set up to where it only has collision, because it's going to use this collision data to transform, and it's going to put it onto your NIF model. Okay? Again, you want this specifically set up just like this. And it has to be 32-bit. I'm going to exit this. But you're going to direct this template to, or this search to that template. I'm going to do the collision source from mesh data. The reason why is I'll show you. You can choose the effects again. You could do a single based off of choosing something in here, or you can do a double. We're going to do a double, name of tri-shape, because I love doing double or more tri-shapes. Alright, so I'm going to leave this open. I'm going to find my Untitled 2 right here with the double cubes. I'm going to make a new folder right here. Alright, I'm going to take these, I'm going to put them in there. I'm going to do right click, select it, right click, copy, paste it. You're going to have a copy, which I'm going to rename this as outline. Alright, and then this is going to be your original file. You have the copy, original file, right? Now, this is the fun part, okay? I've included a text document in here called material list. This material list is also down here in this green text down here. This is what your XML file is for. Is so that nifskope understands this data, and this is your havoc data and your material data connected to your collision, and it gets applied to your 3D mesh. Okay, this is how you add the ability to climb something like stairs or walk up something technically, or like the effect if your arrow sticks into like a barrel or wood objects. That's what this stuff is for. If you don't do this stuff, you're just going to walk into the object and just going to bounce off of it practically. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to have a sound effect at all. Now to apply these, I included this to make it a little bit easier. Oh, right here. You're going to copy whatever you want that tri-shape to sound like. I want one of the tri-shapes to sound like, we're going to say heavy wood. Alright. I'm going to go to my outline, the copied file. I'm going to click on this downwards thing right here. I'm going to select it. I'm going to go down to where it says TXT. Click that. You're going to rename it here. I'm going to press Control V because I controlled copy from that area. I'm going to press OK. Okay? Then, I got to name the other one. You have to name every tri-shape. I want to name this as... Is that a boulder? Yeah. Sky Hazmat boulder. And it does have to be spelled exactly like this. It can't be... here. We'll just go here. It can't be... There has to be underscores. It can't just be a simple space. They all have to be in caps. It has to be spelled exactly like this. So when you're copying this, make sure the blue highlights from letter to letter. Control, copy. I'm going to go back to my NIF, this one, and I'm going to go to the second one, and I'm going to go to text, and I'm going to control key it in here too. Okay. So, rule of thumb with this. If you have multiple shapes named Sky Hazmat Heavy Wood, like let's say you have a third or fourth NIF or mesh in here, name that. Make sure you go up to File, Auto Sanitize before Save Off. You want to unclick that. You want to unclick that. You only want to have that clicked before you put your NIF, your finalized NIF, into your game, because if you have double named meshes, it will crash the CK in the game. It's weird, I know, I get it. But for this case, you want to have all these materials. You're not going to use this file, but you want to have all these materials named to the collision or collision effect that you want it to be. So in this case, you're going to unclick it and go to File, Save. Okay? Because if that's not clicked, it'll change this name and every other one that has that same name to something else. And you don't want that. It has to be exactly named this. So I file, saved, done that, exit. I'm going to exit this. I got what I need from that. I got what I need from this. Exit this. Okay? Here, we're going to go to Collision. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to go to that folder I have that stuff stored in where my meshes are. I think it was 3. Yes, it's 3. Your collision file is going to be your outline, because it's taking a copy of that mesh without the textures and everything and using that shape to create the collision onto your 3D model. You could use you could use a barrel or something else. This is the outline of your mesh, the shape of it that's going to go onto your mesh. I'm going to press OK. That's going to be directed there. And then the mesh that you're going to use in game is going to be this mesh. This one. So one is normal, one has the material properties and everything in it. That's going to be your outline as you're going with the name, material properties and all that. And then the other one's going to be your actual 3D mesh you're going to use in game. It's going to be untitled 2 for me. I'll hit OK. After that, I'm going to have name of tri-shape clicked. And then I might just go to add collision. And it's done already. That's it. Done. That was quick. Oh, it brought back memories. Oh, I'm playing. Anyways, exit. Okay. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to look at Untitled 2 right here. And I'll move my little dude out of the way here. I'm going to click this little red bouncy ball, and I have collision in here. Whee, see? Now, to finalize this, again, go to File, Auto Sanitize before save. You want clicked on now. See how it's clicked on? Just in case there are multiple named tri-shapes that have the same name. Again, it'll crash in game if they do have the same name. We don't want that. That'll fix it before you are on when it's being saved automatically. Now, for this, I'm going to go to BS Fade Node, right click. I'm going to go to Node, Attach Extra Data. I'm going to find BSX Flags. Okay. I'm going to click that. I am then going to go to the little flag right down there. It's kind of small. It has a 0 usually right next to it. I'm going to click it. This little window is going to pop up. Now I'm going to choose Havoc and Complex. That's all you need in most static collisions. All these other things have different effects. Some for animation, some for other things. I'm just going to say Accept. And I could show you an example by clicking on one of the walls. Right here. Look at this. If I open this up and find this BSX flag, and I go down to where this flag is, has Havoc and Complex. See? You can have Dynamic and a few others, but those are the only two I need for a static like this. I'll also include a link that talks about the other flags, but we're not worried about that right now. I'm going to exit that. I'm not going to save. Go back to my mesh. I need this BSX flags, and I need those flags. For this collision to work and be enabled, I need that BSX flags. If this did not have those flags, I would still walk through this in game even if you can see that red collision on my mesh. Alright? I have the BHK rigid body, I have the BHK mop tree shape. I'll even include more documentation on that and more links. Compressed, mesh, and all this is all in here. It's everything I need. Couple things. Good practice. Okay? Spells, sanitize, reorder blocks. It helps prevent crashes. If your 3D model has like loose vertices and other things too in your 3D file before you export, make sure you clean that up because that will also cause a crash. If it's a loose vertex or anything that creates issues. If you put your file in game, it can create a crash just with it being a loose vertex, like a stray vertex not connected to anything. There's ways to clean it up in Blender. But you can also go to spells, batch, update tangent spaces. If you have like a dark triangle, a random dark triangle that commonly happens, good way or quick way to get rid of it is go to batch, update tangent spaces. I think you can also use add tangent spaces and update. Is a good way. And then you also have optimize, remove bogus nodes. If you have a lot of unused nodes or empty files that got, or parts that got exported, that'll remove them. Some of them anyways. Optimize. Stripify all tri-shapes. I forget what that's actually for. So I tend not to use it. I have to research what that's actually for again. I'm going to hit save. If you had multiple named files of the same, it would change it just then, and it will let you know. I'm going to go to exit. I'm going to then exit this. Alright, I am going to right click, copy this. I am then going to go into I have a shortcut to my data folder, to the game. You're going to go where your game's installed. You go to data, and I go to meshes. If this folder isn't here, because you didn't unzip or extract your BSA folders here, which you can do that, but it takes longer for the game to load because it's all loose files. But you could just make a folder called meshes, and it has to be called meshes, and then you make a new folder, and you name it what you want to name it, like your name. Make a folder. I'm going to call it fun. Fuck it. I'm going to paste my new mesh in there. Well, actually, hold up before I go doing that. Alright. I can leave that targeted there. Before I go putting it into the game, I'm going to go to SSE Nif Optimizer, or the Cathedral Asset Optimizer we were using earlier and we were talking about. I'm going to change this from a Skyrim 32-bit model to a 64 SSE-bit model. I'm going to go to Meshes. I'm going to change this to SSE. I'm going to open directory. I'm going to find this folder. I'm just going to copy the path. I'm going to put it up here. And it's going to go to this folder. I'm going to select folder. And this will change or convert every file within that folder. And I'm going to have full optimization. I'm going to hit run. And you can actually go back to 32-bit to do that back and forth. You can always do textures too if you want, because some textures do get screwy. I'm going to exit. I'm going to check this. This should be BS tri-shape. It is now. That's done. I'm going to exit this. Exit this. I'm going to go put this in game. That's something else. Don't worry about this. I'm going to clear this out real quick. I have MO2. There's different ways to do this. I'm just cleaning this out. This isn't part of the actual video. So, alright, it's cleaned out now. Okay. So I'm going to start up my creation kit. I'm going to go into Skyrim. That little open folder up there. Click OK. It'll take a minute. Takes a minute. Come on, you. Wow, it really wants to be slow today. Okay, I'm going to click on statics, right click over here, go to new, that's going to be its ID, go down to model, edit, edit. I'm going to find my model by going to its folder in meshes, click on it, go to OK. It's going to pop up right here. I'm going to go to OK. I'm going to name it to search it. I'm going to say test fun. There, whatever. Okay. It's going to go and be added over here. Alright, I'm just going to go place it in game real quick. And we're going to test it out. I'm going to go Tamriel. I'm going to go to 4-2 because I know that cell way too well. It's going to be Whiterun. It's a very easy place to get to test out stuff. I'm going to go to the front gate down here. Whee. Press M to hide all the markers. I'm going to go over this little filter in my object window, and I'm going to search for it and say test fun. There it is. I'm going to drag it. Bloop. I'm going to resize it because I can. I have this textured model in my CK. It looks so weird in game. Okay. By the way, when you export meshes from Blender, they have to be under, I believe it's the tri-shapes. Each part has to be under 30,000. You can have a NIF with over 500,000 tries, probably. Something like that. It's probably an exaggeration, but you can do like 100,000. With each tri-shape being under 30,000. Okay? It'll let you know that it can't export it if it's too big. You have to do something called decimate by going to a modifier and playing around with it, or making the tri-shape smaller. That was a little side thing I actually forgot about. My apologies. Alright, so to keep this and go play around with it in game, I'm going to go to save. I'm going to go to this, and I'm going to name it fun test something, and it's going to be a funtest.esp, and it's going to save into your data folder. For me, it's going to go to my mo2 folder. Now technically, if you were to package this and put it up on Nexus as a mod, you would need to put that exact directory with folders named into the folder where your .esp is before you zip it up for your ESP. Because that way, you would have to basically put it in your mod as like meshes, the folder of what we named it, which was, I think it was like, let me see, we named it fun, so it'd be, an example would be like, you would have the name of your folder for your mod. In that folder, you would have the .esp, which we're about to save. You'd have to locate it and put it in there, and then you would have to have whatever textures go with it, with if they're custom textures, okay, not in vanilla game. You need a folder for that and one for your meshes. Your meshes would be laid out, it would be spelled out meshes. The folder that we got is fun, and then in that folder would be your mesh, or meshes for the directory. Alright, I'm going to go back to my data folder though, because this is where I want this ESP to be saved. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to exit. Alright, now if you have MO2, your ESP is going to be in your override folder, down at the very bottom, right here. I'm going to go to File, Create Mod, Fun Test, like that. It's going to activate down there. If it don't, just hit refresh. I'm going to click it to enable it. Now, if you're using like, if you're not using MO2 and you think you're using Vortex, it should be in your some type of override folder for Vortex, or either in the data folder where it's going to save it the ESP. Okay, if you're using the creation kit through these. Alright, I, just for the hell of it, am going to go to Skyrim, hit run, oh, that's loud. Okay. To quickly get to where your model or you're testing your mods, you don't have to start a new game. Hit the tilde up in the left-hand corner of your keyboard. Tilde's a little squiggly thing. Hit that. You get this window that pops up. You're going to type COC space whatever COC. You can look them up on Google for Skyrim to teleport around the world space to find this. I'm going to put Whiterun. And I'm going to put exterior 01. No spaces. The only space I got is between COC and Whiterun, exterior 01. I'm going to hit enter. It's going to teleport you with a vanilla... Oh, I spelt it wrong. What the hell? Oh, my bad. There. It'll teleport you with a... Oh, I forgot the E again. Well, this is embarrassing. There it goes. Whiterun exterior 01. It'll teleport you to there with a base setup. This is not playing off of your save in game. Make sure you have a backup of your previous save though, somewhere else, so this doesn't override it by accident. But I teleported here by putting that command in. I can see my cubes. I will... Oh, wait. Oh. Obviously I'm too short. That's like a personal problem for me too. I'm going to go to inventory and I'm going to choose a bow. Because my collision for that is too low to hit it. Or that object's too high. Alright. So, here, we'll do it this way. I'm going to zoom in. My arrow's stuck. My arrow fell off. Doink. 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 Arrow stuck. Arrow sticking. Arrow falling off. That is how that works. And that is the end of my tutorial. Have a good night.